What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, presented by Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. Always appreciate you guys hanging out. If you are watching live on our FTN YouTube page, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Tell a friend. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify. If you have any questions throughout this show, you can leave them there in the YouTube section. Address them, as always, on this show. Or if you're watching the replay, you can still leave them there in the YouTube section. Reach out, meanstreetsftn@gmail.com. Chris Meaney on the Twitter machine. DMs are always open. Slide on in. Take any questions at any moment. Always circle back before a puck drop in the NHL. 11 games on the ice. A lot to get to here on this show. Before tip-off in the NBA, Tino came on, gave some pretty good NBA picks, besides the Raptors, right? But we already knew what we were getting ourselves into. We had the Labatt logo next to the Raptors, just like we had it next to Pierre-Luc Dubois the other night. Who will we have a Labatt next to here tonight? We will find out. A lot, like I said, to get to here on this show. If you are watching on Game Plus Network, always a really good lineup. I encourage you to check out Game Plus Network. Pat Mayo Experience is on next. All in Football will be on tomorrow at 8 Eastern with Jake Seeley. Got the fantasy footballers on there as well. Lots of great content over at Game Plus Network. But again, if you are watching over there, head on over here to our YouTube page. Get in on the fun. We're always doing some giveaways here. We love you guys to be subscribed to the show, to our FTN YouTube page. And again, wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are available. So a lot, like I said, to get to here today. I think I've said that 3 times now. WGC Dell Match Play Picks, Brackets. We got Alex Blickle of FTN Bets. He's going to drop in here. We're going to hang out. We're a couple segments with him, kind of go through some of the brackets. I wanted to fill out a bracket live on this show. I just didn't think we would make it work. We're always pressed for time at the end, rapid firing through NHL picks, which is something I probably shouldn't do because it's kind of my bread and butter, right? I really like the NHL, diving into the NHL with picks, want to give some analysis. Sometimes it's like rapid fire through some of the picks. So we won't go as long with Blickle, but I think one block with him, I'd like to kind of go over just each kind of region. It's basically golf's version of the March Madness brackets, right? It gets underway tomorrow, Austin, Texas. Guys are really going to be going after pins. There's some drivable par 4s, some riskiness, of course, on the course. But, with this match play, they're really going to be, as I think our guy George says, firing darts, pin seeking here this week. So we'll go through the brackets, kind of get Blickle's thoughts on who he thinks is going to come out of each bracket area, region, and we'll get outright winners from him. We'll get him to hang on for another segment. We'll get some outright winners because I think he's called 3 or 4 already before the first major. We're a couple weeks away from the Masters, but I think he's already called 3 or 4 outright winners, so he's been killing it there. We'll get some of his thoughts there and also some DFS plays. 11 games on the ice. Got some picks, some shot props towards the end. Dangle Betselli is live over at our FTN YouTube page. We went through all 11 games. We recapped everything that happened in the trade deadline. Basically gave, 10 to 12 impact moves from a fantasy standpoint, from a betting standpoint. We also went over Stanley Cup futures. And I'll say it right now, I don't know if EY is officially on board with this. I mean, he said it during Dangle Betselli Live. We went through the Stanley Cup odds and I left the Predators off the board kind of just to troll him a little bit because I know he's a Preds guy, but they probably are the best long shot on the board. DraftKings has them at 45-1. They're really feeling it lately offensively. They're scoring goals. Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene, these guys are on massive point streaks. They're all having career years. I don't think Yossi's having a career year, but now he's inside the top 6 in scoring. I mean, I think the Norris is potentially his. I think he has passed Cale Makar, especially if he continues this. And if he finishes with 90-plus points for a defenseman, we're talking like Paul Coffey statistics, right? I mean, there's not a lot of defensemen recently that I can think of that are getting 90 to 100 points. And sure, maybe he slows down a little bit, but he is on a heck of a run. The Preds back in action. So I was trolling him a little bit, giving all the Stanley Cup odds. And kind of pumping our tires at FTN. We were in on the Florida Panthers before the season started at 22-1. They're now plus 550, I believe. We had a future at Calgary at 25-1. They're now like 850 or something like that. I think, Tino, we actually have the Stanley Cup odds. If you have them handy, you can bring them up, or we can save them for the very end. It's all good. Yeah, there we go. So we were talking about these odds. No real value there in Florida or the Flames at 9-1. I think there's okay value with the Flames at 9-1. Don't feel as good about the Vegas future that I have at 10-1. on. I don't even know if they're going to get in. They traded Dadonov yesterday. Maybe some controversy around that deal. He had a no trade clause. Ducks were on his list that he couldn't get traded to. Both sides just somehow forgot about it. Maybe his agent didn't fire the paperwork, and he probably will get fired today. But I left the Preds off this board, but they're 45-1 to win the Cup. Probably the best long shot. So Eric just goes out and says, if you bet $5 on the Predators to win the Cup, screenshot and send that over to him. DM on Twitter, DM to me. Somehow in the YouTube section, I don't think you can screenshot, in the comment section, but somehow if you get that over to him, that you've made a bet, $5 on the Preds, he'll just send you $5. He says he'll double it up, right? What are you doing spending 5? Here's 10. You know what I mean? So he said before we even got on, the show it's already live. It aired at, I believe, 11 Eastern. And he says he's already sent out $15. So it could be an expensive day for him, and make it an expensive day for the guy. Are you kidding me? He's calling goal scorers left, right, and center. He's winning some cash. So a little $5 wager on Nashville, 45-1 to win the Cup. He'll send you $5, your money back, pizza money, coffee money, and away you go. A couple things I wanted to get to here before we officially break. We do have the promo code, QR code. You see the Scan Me on the bottom left. You don't see it now. You'll see it in a second. Mr. J. Fox there. Scan Me. This will bring you to our FTN Bets promo code page and all kinds of goodness there if you are looking to get into just betting, right? For the first time. A lot of these books are going to be available. BetMGM, PointsBet, FanDuel, DraftKings. A lot of these guys will be available, or a lot of these books will be available in your area if you're north of the border. But if you scan that code with your phone, that'll bring you to our FTN Bets promo code page. A lot of sign-up bonuses there as well. And then when we come off of this page, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we do have a Mr. Jamie Fox there, Scan Me, which will bring you to BetMGM as well. So a lot happening in the sports world, the betting world. Any questions, you guys could always reach out to me. A part of our FTN betting package, of course, you guys know we have all the picks from everybody across all the sports. You get the golf picks, you get the madness picks, NHL, baseball futures getting pumped in nonstop here as we're a couple weeks away from the season getting underway, and also a Discord channel available where you can have those conversations about bankroll management, also some tools and projections available as well. And quickly, a couple NFL news items. We're not going to get into this heavy here today, so I just want to get off the top. Matt Ryan is now a member of the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know. Is this an upgrade over Carson Wentz? Maybe. I think overall, Matt Ryan is going to have the better career than Carson Wentz. He's had better seasons. When we go look back at both of these guys, I mean, Carson Wentz could be out of the league after this season, but when we look at both of them overall, we'll say that Matt Ryan had the better career. We'll laugh and chuckle about the collapse, of course, against the Pats. But is he that big of an upgrade overall? I don't know. This doesn't move the needle for me for the Colts. I don't think it's that significant of a move. I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant. 3,900 yards last year, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 220 fantasy points is the fewest he's had since 2009, which was his third year in the NFL. Quarterback 19 overall from a fantasy standpoint. He's nothing but a super flex guy. I don't think it does anything to Michael Pittman. I think he's fine, but I think the biggest thing here for me is, what is Atlanta doing? They got no offensive line. They got no weapons, really. They got no defense. They got no quarterback. I'm sure they're going to draft one. They signed Marcus Mariota yesterday. He's back with Arthur Smith. That didn't work out the first time. He's not going to be the starting quarterback for the Falcons. I don't believe that. I think they will draft a guy, and there's going to be a competitive competition. But this is not great for even Kyle Pitts. Had 1 touchdown last year. How much more do we expect from him with a rookie quarterback or Marcus Mariota under center? So, I mean, it doesn't really move the needle. I don't know where Baker Mayfield's going to go, where Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go. Those are the two guys I think that we can wait on to see where they're going to move. Jay Crowder went to the Buffalo Bills, a 1-year contract. He's going to step in for Emmanuel Sanders. I think when he's healthy, he's fine. This is definitely going to be the best quarterback he's ever played with, in particular over the last 3 years with the Jets, catching passes really from nobody. It is Gabe Davis' season in Buffalo. And then a shout out to Leonard Fournette, who re-upped with the Bucs. There were some reports that he was going to sign with the Patriots. It's always a bloody mess in the backfield in New England. But can you imagine if it was Fournette, Harris, Stevenson, and James White? No thanks. But for Fournette, some numbers here. Third in catches among backs was 69. Oh, so nice. 454 receiving yards, fourth in the NFL among running backs. He had 10 total touchdowns. He finished his RB8 points per game and RB11 overall. And I don't see much movement. Tom Brady's going to be back. You see Brady working out with Edelman, right? With a little chuckle. I wouldn't be surprised if Edelman is back with that team too, just in like a little small role. I know they got Russell Gage and Godwin's coming back, Mike Evans. I wouldn't be shocked. Nobody should be shocked if Julian Edelman re-ups on a one-year deal and Gronk comes back and the whole band's back together. Do you blame Brady? The NFC is completely wide open, right? The AFC is stacked. NFC is fine. But I like Fournette from a fantasy standpoint. You're not going to get the value on him like you did last year, but no Ronald Jones. He's going to be a player in the backfield catching passes, probably gets double-digit points again, double-digit touchdowns again. I think he's going to be a low-end RB1. I think he makes for a solid RB2 if you leave your drafts with him being your running back too. All right, that's it. We'll break 10 minutes, man. We went 5 yesterday. We had a balanced show. We'll try to do our best to get back on track here. Alex Blickle's in here next. A lot of golf talk next on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network as we bring in Alex Blickle. Alex Blickle 1 on the Twitter machine. You got the golf clubs in the background. You're wearing the Tiger Red, my fellow Philadelphia Eagles guy. I had a little panic attack last week, Fletcher Cox. I didn't want to see him go, dude. I'm glad that they found a way to bring him back. I know he's not the same, but I was happy that they brought him back. And I just saw somebody reach out to me already watching the show, DM, that Matt Ryan, when he has a clean pocket, he's good. All he's going to be asked to do in Indianapolis, guys, is here you go.
End it off, yeah.
Here you go. Here you go, Jonathan Taylor. Away you go. We're not here to talk football. We are here to talk PGA, even though you are a bright football mind as well. WGC Dell match play brackets are revealed. They're underway. We'll get into like some outrights. I wanted to go through just like some of the brackets and kind of rapid fire through who you think will come out. But anything you're looking at from a statistics standpoint here this weekend in Austin, Texas, I said off the top that guys will be really trying to fire darts, pin seekers. There's some drivable par fours. Like guys are going to be really going for it here this week, correct?
Yeah. So this is a really kind of interesting course fit dilemma because the match play obviously doesn't give any kind of strokes gain analysis to do, right? Because they don't even keep the actual scores. It's just how you do versus your opponent. And so the way that I approached the course fit model was looking at all of Pete Dye's designs because he is such a unique course architect that the theory was basically all of his courses are going to challenge golfers in a similar way. And so I ran the course fit model on 5 different courses that the tour plays each year that he's the designer of. And basically, like, if each course challenged golfers in different ways, we'd see a pretty weak course fit model centered around the average weight for all of the different strokes gained categories. And that's not what we see. We see something very similar to what we saw at TPC Sawgrass, one of Pete Dye's main courses. And so what we can say is, pretty consistently, Pete Dye golf courses reward accuracy off the tee, and they reward around the green play above all else. And so the cool thing there is, like, even though there is no strokes gain data on TPC or on this week's golf course, we can say, we have a pretty good idea of what types of skills are going to translate here, and that then leads us to some pretty specific golfers.
All right, so like I said, we'll get into your outrights, and people may get a sneak peek as we kind of walk through the brackets here. And congratulations, you're off to a hot start. What's that? You got 3 outright winners already? I mean, before we even get to our first major, that's pretty good, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a good start to the year betting wise. I wish it was as good DraftKings wise, but we'll hopefully turn that around and have it all come together soon.
Yeah, well, we are big outright fans here, more so than DK, even though we will touch on it a little bit. So let's bring up, Tino, this first one here with Jon Rahm. So we can roll through a lot of these, but let's start with this Rahm section here with Reed and Young. Who do you like to come out of here?
This is, I think, perhaps one of the most polarizing groups, in the sense that, like, the biggest name here, obviously Rahm, but then it's Patrick Reed, and yet Reed is actually the worst rated in my models from this group. It's Rahm number 1, and then Cameron Young is a much closer second than I think a lot of people would suspect, followed by Munoz, and then Reed is all the way down at the bottom. So when the groups first came out, I saw that Reed had the second best odds to advance through in some books, and that's just super inefficient to me. I think this is such a good course for Cameron Young. The fact that it rewards driving accuracy, and if you're just looking at the percentage of fairways hit, Cameron Young isn't going to look that great there because he hits the ball so far, so it's more difficult for him to hit fairways. But he has been extremely accurate off the tee. In his last 20 rounds, he's gaining over a stroke per round off the tee. Ironically, it's the second best in the entire field, and yet he's gaining less off the tee total than Rahm is gaining in just the accuracy component over the last 20 rounds. Rahm's driving has been absolutely unbelievable. The downfall for Rahm has been, not only is he missing putts, which I think a lot of people are onto, but his around the green play has been terrible. And long term, he's a pretty good around the green guy. And so that's, right, I think, where he's really been losing strokes lately, and what's really been holding him back. And because around the green play is so predictive here, that's a big obstacle for him. And so I think that Cameron Young is one of my favorite bets this week. I think he's my preferred play to get out of this little pod, or whatever you want to call it. And I think he's going to be a key play on DraftKings too. Although I do wonder, like, how much he'll be steamed in DraftKings, because I think as far as the DraftKings approach goes this week, it's basically game theory above everything else. And so if everybody is on Cameron Young, maybe I won't be there. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'll go to Rahm or Munoz or anyone else in this pod. It could just mean that I ignore this pod as a whole.
I like that you've thrown out pod, because I was struggling early. I'm like, these aren't regions. What the heck am I calling these? So yeah, we're calling them pods. I like that. And starting off Young, I'm writing down Young here. So I don't know, we can call that a bit of a sleeper pick, can't we? Right? I think most people that are looking at this pod, they're either picking Rahm, knowing like Rahm's ability as the number 1 golfer in the world, and then Reed in there. So we don't have to go through all of these, but let's bring this back up, and maybe if there's one that you want to address, like one of the remaining 3 pods here, one with we'll bring up Morikawa here. So we got Morikawa in this one with his pod in there. with Garcia, and then there's another one with Answer and Simpson, Bubba Watson. We got Louis Oosthuizen in there with Paul Casey, and then Schauffele with Finau and Herbert there in the bottom. But the number 2 here, I guess we call this the number 2 seed. DJ Betts is loving this. George said he didn't love these graphics, but hey, that must feel good to hear DJ Betts. What a graphic. PTP, he says, March Madness bracket-esque. Oh, baby. So there you go, George. You did a good job for us. But what stands out here? You can touch on Morikawa and his pod if you want, but if there's one pod that you feel really strong about, by all means.
This is actually, I think, a course that really does not help Morikawa. Morikawa as well, his biggest weakness is around the green play. And so I'm much less on him than a lot of other guys. Like in his last 20 rounds, he's losing a third of a stroke per round with his short game. Long term, it's still been a weakness, but it hasn't been that bad. He's been as bad as Hovland around the green in the last 20 and as bad as Rahm. And the other thing that I really notice with Morikawa is we think of him as the best or the second best iron player in the world, along with Justin Thomas. And long term, that is still true. But in the last 20 rounds and even the last 50 rounds, he hasn't been in that category. Like in those last 20, Justin Thomas is gaining 1.2. Victor Hovland is gaining 1.36. Morikawa is only gaining 0.4 per round with his irons over the last 20 rounds. And I talked last 50, it's 1.2, 1.1, and then Morikawa down at 0.6. So he really just hasn't been the same player that we're accustomed to, and he hasn't been the guy that he's been whenever he's been winning in bunches. And then you get to the course fit sort of lacking there for him, and I'm just really not interested. And I think as far as that region goes, the 2 names who really stand out to me are Alex Noren in one of the strongest pods. I think that in Matt's volatility analysis, Noren is the least volatile both in the recent play and also in the long-term form. So I think that type of consistency is really beneficial in match play. Basically, it means he's not going to beat himself in any match. Whoever he's playing is going to have to beat him. And because he's been playing so well lately, he actually has one of the highest recent form expected strokes gained in my model this week. He's been great pretty much all around, but particularly with the irons, with the putter, and he's really improved his driving all around, but especially accuracy off the tee. Long run, he loses a little bit. He's actually gained a decent amount with accuracy off the tee, just putting himself in position to have success and really lean on that iron play and putting. And he's always been very good around the green, so it's a good course fit for him as well. I think he's a really strong play. The only issue for him is that it's an extremely strong pod that he's in. It might be the very strongest of all of them, which leads me to then the weakest pod of all, I think, is Xander Schauffele's. And because of that, I actually have Schauffele as the most likely of anyone in this field to advance through the pod into the Sweet 16. But then he runs into that buzzsaw group. So whatever player makes it out of that really difficult Noren pod is going to give Schauffele a run for his money. And you know that whoever's getting out of that group is playing really good golf. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to get out of that pod. So I think those are the 2 names who really stand out to me from that region. It's Noren and Schauffele, and sort of for different reasons. Like if Noren gets through, I love his chances to advance, while Schauffele is, I love his chances to get through, but then I don't necessarily love his chances to advance. And so especially when I'm looking at DraftKings and who I want from these groups, like that's going to be, again, just a game theory based decision. If everyone is on Schauffele because of how easy it should be for him to get through his pod, then I'm not going to want him. If people aren't caught up to that fact, then I probably will.
Yeah, good call. Tino, bring that back up again, and then we'll transition to the next one. Yeah, so you see there, Schauffele as the 7th seed, and then Noren would be, we could call that an upset, right? Even though you said, I mean, it's a really tough pod there. Connors, right? And George and I were talking about Connors' game lately and just some of the struggles, but so 50 seed there for Noren, and then Schauffele really making some noise. Let's transition over to your guy, Jordan Spieth. I hear he's your guy, right? Well,
Not mine,
fading
no.
all the narratives, right? I know, I'm kidding. I know that. I know that. But yeah, Austin, Texas, we can buy into all that stuff there. But of course, we do have Spieth in here in that second pod with Scott and Rose and Keegan Bradley. Justin Thomas up at the top there with Kisner. You mentioned Hove earlier. Willie Z, I got a sucker for this guy. And then we have Kevin Na in there as well with Neiman and McNeely. What stands out to you here with these 4 pods? What do you think is like the safest guy to advance?
So the very first thing for me in this region is that Justin Thomas has the best odds for me to get into the Elite 8 and the Final 4. And quite frankly, it's not that close. I mean, he is head and shoulders above anybody else in those odds. Like just a quick indication. I have Justin Thomas at 14% to get to the Final 4. Nobody else is even at 12%. It's a pretty big lead that he has there. I think the second best odds to get into the Elite 8 are something like 25%. I have him at almost 29%. It's a big advantage for him. It's the draw, but it's also the fact that he's just a perfect fit for this golf course, right? Like I think in what we saw in the last couple of weeks from JT is a big increase in his driving accuracy. He's really felt confident with the driver. He's been able to shape it and hit some really difficult fairways to hit. And man, his iron play is just so incredibly good and consistent that the more fairways he can hit, the more opportunities he gets with those irons to really score. It's just the recipe for him. You know, if he can continue that driving, I think he's going to win a lot in the next couple of years and this year especially. And then obviously, like in the long run, he's one of the absolute best in the world with his short game too. So everything about this course really fits him. He's playing great golf, and he gets an easy draw. So he's definitely my favorite, and I'm hoping that he's not going to be steamed too much in the DFS world, because I would love to have basically as much of him as possible. And then the other guy that I want to talk about is pretty much the opposite. It's Viktor Hovland. From a course fit standpoint, this course doesn't fit him that well because around the green has always been his biggest weakness. But I've basically come around to the fact that maybe we shouldn't be looking that closely at course fit when it comes to Hovland, because number one, he's a very volatile player for the caliber of player that he is. And so basically what that says is he can spike any given week. It doesn't matter the course fit. If he's on, he's on. He's going to contend. But the other thing that I've noticed is there have been a handful of courses over the last month and a half that really reward around the green play. And they've been the Genesis, they've been Sawgrass, and I'm blanking on the other one. But basically all 3 of them have really rewarded around the green play, and he has contended in all 3. He's been right there. Oh, the other one was Bay Hill. And he's contended in all 3, and I think he's done it in such a way that says, like, the reason around the green play might be so predictive there is because no matter how good you are from a ball striking standpoint, you're going to have to lean on your around the green play. And yet Hovland says, no, I'm the exception. I am so good with my ball striking that I won't have to lean on my short game. And that's pretty much exactly what he's done. And in fact, you know, we've had 2 such occasions where around the green play has been diminished and iron play has been rewarded a little bit extra. And Hovland hasn't done quite as well in those weeks. So I'm definitely now open to the idea that maybe we shouldn't just focus that much on the course fit projections for Hovland and treat him as the outlier that he is with his ball striking.
Fair enough. All right, let's take a quick break. There's still one more region. I want to get some outrights for you as well. I just want to keep the balance of the show. I went super long off the top, talking way too much about Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons in Indianapolis Colts. So hang on, Blickle. For one more segment, we'll come back. We'll get some outright winners as well. Keep your lock. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney with Alex Blickle. Alex Blickle 1 on the Twitter machine. Check out all of his work over at FTN Bets, FTN Daily, FTNFantasy.com. You get the course, fit and stats there. You got your hot takes article as well. And you are hitting outright winners, which we'll get to in a little bit. Let's bring up this last region. We'll call it a region here with Patrick Cantlay. You got Scheffler and Fleetwood with Fitzpatrick and Poulter there in that one pod. Peters and Lee with Horschel. We got Hatton in there with Kim. Cantlay's there at the bottom as the 4 seed with him and Power and Mitchell. What's your favorite pod to attack here? What do you think is the most likely guy to come out?
It's that second one with Horschel and Hoagie. I think that this is one of the weaker pods with Peters and Minwoo Lee. And both Horschel and Hoagie have been playing very well. They both are extremely accurate off the tee. I feel like I'm very confident that one of those two is going to advance. I don't necessarily have a lean between the two, especially once you factor in things like price and ownership on DraftKings. But yeah, I'm very confident that it's going to be one of those two, and I think that I'll probably try and load up on both in MME. And from a betting standpoint, I think I would probably lean Hoagie, just because he's such a volatile player that I feel like his odds sort of underrate his ability to compete with the best in the world when he's on, and especially like the iron play with him is fantastic. His short game is getting there, but really it's the driving accuracy coupled with the iron play. I talked about that important combination for JT, just because the better you are with your irons, the more important it is that you give yourself as many opportunities as possible to gain strokes with your irons. Hoagie's got that combination just like Justin Thomas, and so I love his odds pretty much all around the board.
George says it's concerning that you're picking Thomas over List. He is he's a little worried about you there. Let's get into some outright winners. I think just listening to you talk through this is pretty helpful, obviously, to help fill out my bracket, but also like where you're leaning in terms of potential outright winners. I think maybe Cameron Young is kind of where we should start. Anything else you wanted to add to Cameron Young? You like him as an outright winner? There we go. 121 to, like, are you kidding me? Like 120 to 1. That's pretty. Hit one of those and you're good to go for a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are some other things that are worth mentioning with Cameron Young. I think the very first thing to say is, just like Tom Hoagie, he's a very volatile player for his price all around. And again, that just means that when he has his ceiling, he's competing with some of the best in the world. And I think there are also some trends in his game that are really promising. Like in the long run models, he's not going to pop that much because around the green play has really been an issue for him, at least early on in his PGA Tour days. But in the last couple of events, it's been a strength for him. And so suddenly he's actually gaining around the greens in his last 20 rounds. That means that his recent form expected strokes gained is popping off the page. It's up there with the likes of Alex Noren, Joaquin Niemann, Russell Henley. These other names that are, I think people would immediately put into a couple tiers above Cameron Young's. And maybe that's a mistake. I think Cameron Young really deserves to be in that tier, especially with the way he drives the ball. And that sort of brings me to the next point, which is Cameron Young in his last event was his first disappointing event in a while. And his main issue was, I think he lost 8 strokes due to penalties off the tee where he had to re-tee. And in match play, if that happens, so be it. You can't lose more than one hole at a time, whereas a double or triple bogey kind of kills your chances. And really, he almost made the cut despite that. And I think it just goes to show the kind of scorer that he is. And that's proven to be the case. He's among the very tops in par 4 scoring. And so I think people think of his length and they just assume, oh, he's a great scorer, but he can only get it done on par 5s. He's actually been a better scorer on par 4s than par 5s. And the real reason is he drives the ball long and straight. And so he gets a lot of wedges, and his wedge play is phenomenal. And then he's a very good putter as well, very underrated putter. And
looking like me off the tee sometimes, right? 3 off the tee. I mean, there's nothing worse than that in your golf game.
Nothing worse than that. And the thing about it is, like, it was such an outlier for him. I already mentioned, like, in the last 20 rounds, he's gaining over half a stroke per round in driving accuracy. And that includes those penalty strokes that he had to take at the Players. I mean, he was just phenomenal off the tee prior to that. And the thing was, like, I think in the first round, he ended up losing 2 tee shots down the stretch in his last like 3 holes or something like that. And he had gained over 2 strokes already that round prior to that off the tee, which means prior to that, he was hitting the ball long and straight consistently on a golf course that is really difficult to hit fairways, especially if you're as long as he is. So pretty incredible driving performance before those issues. And the issues happened in 20 holes. And I'm very willing to just throw out those 20 holes. And even if you don't, you know, he still projects so well. And it's now a format that if he does have those wayward tee shots every now and then, as long as he's hitting it well in the intermediate, you know, he's going to be fine. And then I also think it's worth mentioning, like, the way that he scores, the rate at which he makes birdies and even eagles. That's a really, really good thing, both for match play itself, but especially for the DraftKings scoring, because just like it rewards birdies more than bogeys on a typical week, it rewards holes won more than it punishes holes lost. And so if one guy wins 2 up with 6 holes won, and Cameron Young only wins 1 up but has 8 holes won, Cameron Young might be the more valuable guy that round. So everything about Cameron Young I love this week. Really the only issue is that he has to play the number 1 player in the world, but at least he's playing the number 1 player in the world when Rahm is really struggling around the greens on a golf course. Yeah, it's emphasized.
This is the time, right? I mean, every time we talk about every tournament, we mention Rahm and not even betting him. But I mean, he hasn't really even been hanging around. I mean, he hangs around, but he hasn't been there, you know, knocking on the door on Sunday. So it's a pretty good opportunity for Young maybe to take advantage of him. Blickle, we only have about a minute and a half or so. I know you have a couple more picks. So if you wanted to just kind of roll through a couple outrights that you're feeling, please do share. But we do have a lot more in our FTN bet tracker. But yeah, go ahead. Who else are you feeling here?
Yeah, I mean, they're all in the bet tracker. Alex Noren is one that I'm betting. Taylor Gooch is one that I'm betting at 66-1 on BetMGM. And I think that Gooch is actually one of the more interesting decisions of the entire week, especially on DraftKings. I mentioned that I think it's going to be all about game theory for me, and it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the day I have Gooch projected around 30 to 40% ownership in single entries, in which case I would be all about Bryson DeChambeau this week. So that Bryson might be one of my hot takes this week. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if he is. But yeah, I think that decision, Gooch versus Bryson, is one of the more intriguing of the weekend and could be sort of like the key decision point.
Yeah, so Gooch we have at what you said 66-1. That's over at PointsBet. Again, use the prop shop to get the best possible odds. And then we have a little Matt Wolff. I mean, you said you can't quit on Wolff. George put the Labatt there next to him. 160-1. You and I chatted before we came on here about hitting one of these and the value, right? Like hitting a golf 160-1 or 120, whatever it is with Young. I mean, this kind of stuff can pay the bills, and you hit one of these every 5 or 6 tournaments, you're laughing. We don't have much time, dude. Like 30 seconds if you wanted to give a reason why you are going back to Mr. Wolff here.
Yeah, in a typical week, it's about his volatility and the fact that when he plays well, he plays really well. This week, I think match play is going to be a very welcomed difference for him. Like it's clear that he has been so wild off the tee that he's just making big number after big number, and it almost seems like he's playing with a fear of making a big number. That fear won't be there in match play. Like we said, you know, he can lose 2 balls off the tee, just say, all right, let's go to the next hole, and it's fine as long as he bounces back. It's totally fine. And so I think that he'll be playing with a little bit more comfort and confidence that he's been playing with in quite a bit, and maybe that is the thing he needs to get that ball striking clicking. And once it clicks, watch out for him.
Giddy up. Blickle, always appreciate it, man. I learn a ton. I feel like I'm okay in like the golf game of players, but I always feel like when you and I chat, certainly learn a lot. Great content over at ftnbets.com from yourself and the entire crew, FTN Daily as well. Check out the hot takes article, fit course article. You talked about some stuff that Jones and DeCourte are doing over there as well. And these guys are right there with you in the Discord channel, answering any questions and helping you with your DFS lineups, showdown lineups, and all that good stuff. Enjoy, man. Good luck with your bracket and all the picks. I have a feeling we'll be talking about Young or Wolff here next time that you are indeed on.
Hopefully. Let's do it.
All right, Alex Blickle 1 on the Twitter machine. Tino's in here next. We're going to switch gears, talk a little NBA. Got some NBA picks and some NHL picks to round out Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. Watching Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network as we bring in producer Tino __ on the Twitter machine here. 4 games in the association. You are wearing your daily dart shirt, darts all day. Pin seeking and firing darts. Okay, I'll throw it to you. The Warriors are on the schedule. I was going to come in here with a little bit of Klay Thompson love. I still think I like him. It does sound like Curry is out, right? Or
right.
He's definitely out, and Wiggins is probable to play here tonight. But what do you like here on the card, the 4-game slate?
Well, I am staying away from that game. That's for
yeah.
certain. I want no part of it. Curry out, and they're still going to be like 8-point favorites. I'm good on that. I'm going to come in with another prop play here. I do have 2 picks, but I want to start off with this, and I called my shot. We got George some money. I made him some Labatt's money yesterday.
Yes, congrats. That was awesome.
Yes, LeBron James triple-double. We also called Kevin Durant and LeBron James points overs. Obviously, LeBron is chasing that point total. But today I'm going to go with Nikola Jokic. And, this is kind of the bread and butter here. Obviously, he's a triple-double machine. This is not a surprise to anyone. On DraftKings plus 245, if you can get that better anywhere, I highly recommend you do it. He's playing the Los Angeles Clippers today. This game is finicky to me in terms of the spread. I kind of wanted to stay away with it, stay away from it entirely. And then I realized the last time Jokic played these guys in Denver, it went to overtime, but he had a 50-point triple-double, 49-point triple-double. One game, the other 2 games, he fell 2 assists short. He had 8 assists in both of those, and he had double-digit rebounds, including a game where he had 22 rebounds. The guy's going to go off. I like his overs in everything in this matchup. If the other 3 matchups this season didn't prove it to you, take your pick, but I'll just take the safe route in case he doesn't go off in every statistic, and he keeps it even keel the way he does. Plus 245 for a triple-double for Nikola Jokic is something I really like today. 49-point triple-double. That's insane. LeBron's was insane yesterday, too. 38-point triple-double. And Kevin Durant had 37, 9, and 8. Like, it's this month of basketball. I will say this. We're getting towards the end of March. I know we're focusing on college basketball. We've had several 60-point performances, 50-point performances. The NBA is picking up. This is the time of year. It's been long. It's getting very, very exciting. And speaking of, what better than a playoff matchup from last year? We got the Atlanta Hawks going into New York. I didn't realize this. Atlanta has not beaten New York all year. I know in the postseason, Atlanta, not big fans of Trae Young. I don't need to repeat the chant, but I'm sure you're going to hear it today if you turn on the game on TNT. Not big fans of Trae Young. It seems like no John Collins still. We're not sure on the
Yeah.
status of a couple of these other guys. Julius Randle may be out, may not be out. I'll check it really quick. Says he's out, so I think that plays a factor. And that's probably why the Hawks are at least 2.5 point favorites, and most sites maybe 3. I don't mind it. I think they get their first win against the Knicks. I think Trae Young is going to go off. I think it's a big bounce back spot for them. They're trying to get into a good playoff spot right now, or a playoff spot right now, and I think this win will put them in the right direction. So I'm taking the Hawks. We don't like road favorites, but today we do. And then we're going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bulls answered our call yesterday. Obviously, we were on the wrong side of it. We told the people it was the Labatt pick of the day. We knew what we were getting into with the Raptors, but we needed to figure it out. We said, if the Mavs beat the Timberwolves are a good team. They've been one of the hottest teams, and the 2-point loss assured us that they are a good team. The Raptors, however, losing to the Bulls assured us that they are not a good team. And so the Bulls are going to go on the road today and play the Milwaukee Bucks, who is for sure a good team, a 2 seed, or tied for the 2 seed in the East right now. Doesn't look like Chris Middleton's going to play. So if you wanted to get down with the Bulls plus the points, I don't blame you. But I can't do it. They haven't beaten anybody. I don't think they start today. And although the spread is high, I think Giannis goes absolutely off and takes care of business. They've won by less than the total on the spread both times this year. But I think this time will be different. I think we get the cover, and I'll roll with it. And if I'm wrong again, just keep fading me when I pick against the Bulls. Just keep doing it. And I have no shame in it. At least we get a winner out of it, right? If you want to fade me, that's fine. Just make sure you're riding with me on all the other bets, and you'll be in good shape.
We're riding with you nonstop here, Tino. Yeah, yesterday was great. We called LeBron, like you said, over 30 points. We had that. You had the triple-double. Shout out George, who nailed that one. And then, just like you said, the only thing that kind of screwed you was the Raptors. LeBron now leads the NBA in points per game with 30. I think we continue to attack him. I think what you said yesterday was amazing, like spot-on analysis that this guy is going to go for this record at his age. That would be quite of accomplishment if he could lead the league in points. And you're right, this time of the year is when the NBA picks back up. They usually go on that pause where it looks like they're not really trying before the All-Star break. Now it's go time. A couple things rapid fire. Trae Young assists over 9.5. He's cleared this in 6 past 7. 2.5 threes. Maybe you can put in a parlay with Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's a little juiced, minus 140 for 4 threes, but he's cleared that. In 3 of his last 4, he's got 19 triples over his last 4 games. So Trae Young, a little Klay Thompson in there as well. We'll say goodbye to Tino. We got 2 more segments, NHL Shop Props and NHL Picks. See you, Tino, and we'll be back here on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. 11 games on the ice in the NHL. Going to have a lot of bets in our FTN bet tracker. Going to narrow it down, of course, my favorite few. Wanted to share here my favorite few shot props with you guys. Again, check out Dangle Betselli. It is live over to FTN YouTube page. Eric Young and I broke down all 11 games. We went through the NHL trade deadline, talked about some winners, some losers. Guys, it can help you out in your fantasy leagues, and also just really dove into the NHL futures with now the dust has settled, right? These are what is here with these rosters is what they're rolling with here down the stretch. So Anthony Mantha finally can find this guy. Bovada's had him for, a couple weeks, those that have access to that book, but now I see him live at DraftKings at -115, FanDuel -118, and Caesars -120. Make sure you use the free prop shop over at ftnbets.com to get the best possible odds. So for Mantha, he's cleared in 6 of his past 7 games. He hasn't played a whole lot of hockey this season. He dealt with an injury, kept him out for a long time, but he's back. He's feeling pretty good. I liked him actually to find the back of the net at nearly 3-1 tonight as well. He's plus money for a point. I don't know if TJ Oshie's going to play. I would like him to play clearly for that line to get going here. But, for Mantha, 2.5 shots. His last 3 games, 4 shots, 5 and 5. And like I said, he's cleared in 6 of his past 7. David Perron is at a really good price as well. And this guy has been on an absolute heater. I mean, I think he's got goals in like 7 of his last 9 games. He had a hat trick in his last game. -120 for 2.5 shots over at FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars. Unibet has him at -139. Those north of the border, Bet365. Absolutely in play over there as well. He's cleared in 5 straight games, got 28 shots over those 5 games. His last 5 games, 4, 6, 7, 7, and 4. So he's had at least 4 shots in 5 straight games. Tyler Toffoli is going to play on the top line in Calgary tonight with Elias Lindholm and Johnny Hockey. I would take him anyways, even if he was on that third line with Calle Yarncroc and Andrew Mangiapane. So they're going to try him out on that top line. He's already on the top power play. He's cleared 2.5 shots in 8 of his last 11 games. 4 of his last 5. A matchup against the San Jose Sharks, who have allowed the 3rd most shot attempts at 5 and 5 per 60 over the last 4 weeks of the NHL season, according to Natural Stat Trick. And then Jason Robertson moved up to 3.5 shots, and then he had 3 stinkers in a row with 2, 2, and 1. And now he's back down to 2.5. The Oilers played last night in Colorado, so the second half of a back-to-back. They allow a lot of rubber anyway, so I think Jason Robertson, not as a single. I think the top 3, Mantha, Perron, and Toffoli, you can play as singles, but I think you want to include Jason Robertson maybe in some parlays. Overall, he has cleared in 6 of his past 9 games, and he's averaging 3 shots per game on home ice and averaging fewer shots than that on the road. That top line in Dallas, it's really the only line that they have, but they're really good on home ice. Rupe Hintz, Joe Pavelski, and Jason Robertson. Because you guys hung on and we talked a lot of golf, so quick, rapid fire. Crosby's in play at 2.5. Brock Nelson as well. Forsberg and Duchesne. And then if you're looking for some plus money, I do like Roman Josi and Nikolai Ehlers. So we'll take a quick break, and we're going to round out the show with a couple NHL picks. I got some goal scorers for you next as well. Keep her locked. Welcome back. I got some sides and some totals here and a parlay for you. Again, 11 games on the ice, so a lot of action. I don't know. I saw McCormick tweet me. He's hanging out. I love the inside analysis here. Oshie looks like he's going to return today, but on that third line, it's still like Mantha. Mantha's the guy there. I don't know what's going on with the Rangers. Last night I put it in at -149. I see -140 now. I mean, I like them, right? I mean, there's only 2 teams in the NHL that have more road wins than them. That's teams in the East. They're 26-3, or 20-12-2 rather, on the road. Pittsburgh has 21 wins. Boston has 21 road wins. Last night they picked up their 21st road win. This is a really strong team. They got worked over the other night against Carolina, but they still found a way to win that game, and Shesterkin didn't play. I expect Shesterkin to play here. The Devils are not getting the goaltending, so I'm just not going to overthink this. I'm going to back the Rangers here on the money line. I'm going to back the Jets here. This Vegas team is not the same Golden Knights team they played last night as well in Minnesota. They couldn't find a way to score. They're not getting any offense. They're not getting any goaltending. They got 4 wins in their last 10. Winnipeg is starting to heat up here. Offensively, they've been much better. They got wins in 6 of their past 10 games, points in 7 of their last 10 games as well. They're decent at home. I like that second line with Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nikolai Ehlers, and Kyle Connor in there. So I like the Jets at home ice. They just played Vegas March 15th and spanked them 7-3. Flames don't need too much more analysis than they're playing the Sharks. Like them on the puck line, like Pittsburgh in 60 against Columbus, pair them up. These are odds that we put in last night in the FTN Bet Tracker. So if you have the package, you follow FTN alerts on the Twitter machine, you get notified right away. I think Calgary anywhere from -125, -130 on the puck line is fine, but we got them last night at +110. And then Carolina, nobody has scored fewer goals at 5-5 per 60 over the last 4 weeks than the Hurricanes up against Vasilevsky. I don't think that they break out. I believe we've gone a little long. That's what I'm feeling. On the way out, goal scorers: Perron, Mantha, Rust, Ehlers, Rust twice? Sure. Robertson was the other guy. And then Tyler Toffoli. Good luck on the ice. We'll be back tomorrow. Cheers.